the phthalo blue like you see in the video on a dry brush. Okay, here's just a dry angled brush, and that's the phthalo blue. So I'm just gonna mix it with the brush. Okay, and then I'm gonna come in with some of the cadmium yellow. And if you're worried about not getting the right kind of green, you can just mix a little bit at a time. It is okay. If it comes out looking more blue-green, you can add more yellow. Man, wow, I have good luck. That looks pretty good. But I want it to have, I want it to be a little bit darker, a little warmer, so I'm going to add a little dash of the cadmium red. And when I say dash, that's how much I put on my brush. That is actually bigger than a dash, but let's just see how it goes. Worst case, it gets too crazy looking and I decide to add some more blue and yellow. All right, so that's my dark green that I have. And that's totally fine, okay? I'm going to take this brush that has no medium, no paint thinner in it, and I'm gonna put it on the canvas so you can see what it looks like. So here's the brush that has the Winsor Newton phthalo blue, cadmium yellow, and a little bit of the cadmium red. It has no medium and it has no paint thinner on the brush, and the brush is dry. This is a dry canvas. So that is what it looks like when it goes on the canvas. Okay, so you'll notice when I'm moving it around, right, like I'm not getting much coverage and it's not really all that opaque. And when I try to drag the brush, even if I'm pushing as hard as I can from one end to the other, it'll be darker at the beginning of the stroke and then it slowly fades out. So that is what you'll get if you... This is the mixture of the Winsor Newton oil paints with the Galkid gel. That's the gel, and if you want to just use the liquid Galkid Light, that is totally cool too. Okay, so this is the area that had only the paint. Here's the consistency when you mix in the Galkid gel. Huge difference. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm turning my brush to get both sides of the brush so you can see kind of the consistency. So you notice the coverage and how smooth it went on. Okay, and the part where it's starting to go out, that tells me I just need to load more paint on my brush. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get more paint on my brush, and then I'm going to come over here. Okay. All right. Now, it's totally fine to play around with the consistency of your medium. So if you feel like you're still not getting the looseness in this layer that you want, just add a little bit at a time. And yes, it's okay if a little bit of the paint gets into the medium. It will be fine. Once everything gets in the canvas, it's all going to mix. It's totally fine to play around with the consistency of your medium. So if you feel like you're still not getting the looseness in this layer that you want, just add a little bit at a time. And yes, it's okay if a little bit of the paint gets into the medium. It will be fine. Once everything gets in the canvas, it's all going to mix. It's totally fine to play around with the consistency of your medium. So if you feel like you're still not getting the looseness in this layer that you want, just add a little bit at a time. And yes, it's okay if a little bit of the paint gets into the medium. It will be fine. Once everything gets in the canvas, it's all going to mix. It's totally fine to play around with the consistency of your medium. So if you feel like you're still not getting the looseness in this layer, and that your layer is too translucent, it is okay. Just add more paint into the mixture. So I just use my brush to grab some phthalo blue. I'm going to get some cadmium yellow, and I know I'm going to need to touch a cadmium red. That's a given. So you could use your palette knife or your brush to mix it. That's really up to you and your preference. Okay, here I am again with that. Oh, that's pretty, but that's not the color I'm looking for. So I'm going to add some more yellow to it. Okay, that is close enough. Okay, don't stress yourself out if when you're adding more paint to your mixture, the hue isn't 100% matched to what you already have on the canvas. That's what's going to make your piece really pop. So if you want to measure it in terms of like fractional pieces, that might help you. All right, now when I did that, I'm noticing that I'm still getting a pretty significant blue. So that tells me that I need to add way more yellow. Ooh, look at that pretty dark green. Hello. And so essentially, whether you add the gel in the middle or at the end, I mean, it's really kind of up to you in terms of your preference. But typically what you'll see is someone will add a bit in, and then given the consistency, they'll assess if they need to add more or less. So when I look at this in terms of consistency, if I were to like slide this across, this is kind of reminding me of like the consistency of hand sanitizer. So I'm going to show you what it looks like when paint with this consistency goes on the canvas. If I'm thinking I need a little bit more gel on my brush, that's totally fine. I just put bit by bit, and that's what it looks like on the canvas. What you'll notice is the more gel that you add, the more translucent your layer is going to be. Opaque, starting to get a little thin. I'm going to do one more example to show you how much thinner this can get. If you want to go for a more translucent look, you're going to add a lot more gel in. And I haven't cleaned my brush either during this layer. This is the brush that has considerably more gel on it. And what you'll notice is when you put it on the canvas, it is way more translucent. Okay, depending on what you're working on is totally fine. Okay, but especially if it's a base layer, you're going to want something that's a little bit more in these two categories. If you accidentally make your layer too translucent, there's a very easy fix for that. So here is the mixture of adding more paint when I thought I made it too translucent. And here's what that's going to look like. I'm just going to put it beside it so you can see the example. So hopefully this eases any concerns you might have had about, possibly like ruining a mixture. You didn't ruin it. You did not ruin it. Okay. This is no medium. That's with a little bit of medium, a little bit more, a whole lot. And that's what happens when you're just like, I didn't want it to be that translucent. I want it to be more opaque. So I'm just going to add more paint to my mix. Okay.